Hi everyone, it's Michelle Lightworker here, and welcome to another episode of Enlightened Conversations, Season 2. So if you don't know much about Enlightened Conversations, the whole goal of why we've created Enlightened Conversations, or why Spirit has asked us to create Enlightened Conversations, is to expand our energy and abilities to lift our vibration and to hold that in unity across the world, across the planet. So we're really, even though this is a show, it's actually a really expansive opportunity for you to engage with energy of high vibrational frequencies. And I like to say to my guests, like, we don't plan like what we're going to talk about. Sometimes I have something that I really feel called to ask them or discuss, and that I do with Jeremy, my special guest today, Jeremy Walker. But because of something I'm passionate about, but usually it's not like that, and we just go with the flow anyway and see what we create a space to see what messages want to come through and drop in through us. So I'm going to officially introduce Jeremy Walker to you so you know who I'm talking about. So Jeremy Walker is the owner of Inspire Hypnotherapy. I like the word Inspire Hypnotherapy. That's really lovely. And this is based in Chermside in Queensland, Australia. His background is in hypnotherapy, NLP Coaching, Psychosomatic Therapy, and the Demartini Method. Jeremy's mission is to impact 20,000 lives in the next 4 years, helping people achieve self-mastery of their thoughts, emotions, habits, and addictions. Jeremy also loves the outdoors and going on adventures. I love adventures. He is visiting several countries in Africa this year, so that's exciting too. Welcome, Jeremy.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here and have a very enlightened conversation.
Fantastic. I guess when I was introducing you, two things like jumped out. First was that when we first connected, I really had this strong, I was really drawn to your approach when it came to understanding and integrating and recovering from addiction. So I was like, oh, I really want to talk hobnob about that with you. That would be awesome. And then as I was introducing you, the thing around your wanting to impact a certain number of people in a certain number of years, that really jumped out at me, because just lately I've been given some, it's a little bit secret squirrel at the moment, and I'm not going to really announce it until probably April, but sort of like a timeline of what Spirit wants, how Spirit wants Enlightened Conversations to impact people. So I kind of feel we're hand in glove here, because, you know, missions to enlighten the planet and to help people to lift their thought frequency is obviously something that we share big time.
Yeah, and I think around the 20,000 number for me, it's about, and what just came up for me as you were talking was, it's around wanting to make my mark and make my impact. Now I want to be able to say there's a big chunk of people that I've made a difference to, and that have really impacted in a way that wasn't just, a little thing happened, but my life took a new direction, or that problem I had for 20 years is gone or greatly reduced.
Yeah, and you know, that's the thing, isn't it? And it's great that you're actually keeping track of that, because I think a lot of the time we don't realise who we impact, how we impact them, and then that one person then goes on to impact someone else that day and then for years to come. And so that 20,000 people, you know, that you've impacted and that you want to have as your legacy of, I've helped this many people, and the ripples of that just continue to go on and on and on forever. And so I think it's great that you're validating what you're doing and you're making it count. It really appeals to me today, especially after this morning, the information that I got through around how many people I'm being told to impact through Enlightened Conversations. So I'm really with you.
I think for me, a part of my work too is, it is making that impact around helping people to overcome addictions and these sort of things. But I think secretly, and I've never told anyone this before, it is about really helping people to get to the truth of what's really going on, and to get back to a place of authenticity as well. I think, it is, let's go and quit cigarettes, or let's go and reduce alcohol and get healthier. But there's always this bit of a thing where it's really about something else, not just about the result, but it is about something more there as well.
Yeah, I agree. I wrote a book called The Light-Filled Relationship, and it's part of level 2 of the Lightworker practitioner training, and there's a whole chapter in it. And it's called Light-Filled Relating with replacement higher powers, and then I've got in brackets, AKA addictions, because we tend to, when we're feeling lost and we're not connecting to the higher power within us and our higher self, that's when we feel that sort of urgency to really go, that doesn't feel so great. Let's go do our, medicating, because we don't feel comfortable and we don't feel connected. So I really resonate with that authenticity thing, because when we rewind that all the way back to, connecting or relating, Light-Filled Relating to what's real, which is who we really are, and who we are is at the nuts and bolts of it. We're really, really pure source. And so getting back to that is awesome, and if you've got that goal in mind when people coming in to see you, and you're already kind of feeling like, wow, this is going to be an adventure to really explore what this is really about, like, the cover up of who they are, or the running away from who they are. I think that's exciting.
Yeah, there's an intention I used to say a few years ago, just as everyone was coming in to get myself really centered, which is, all right, the intention is light, love, and healing. So light as in the illumination and the truth. The love is in coming from that heart space. Was it love, light, and healing? So healing and the transformation. That was what I used to say to myself kind of every time. Now it's more of a natural intention for me, but that was always the intention behind the work.
Yeah, I like that the word healing, when it's framed in a way of returning to wholeness, like we're becoming more aware that we were already whole before. We're returning to a state of understanding that we're already whole. And so healing itself is actually returning its way to wholeness, or to the perception of wholeness, the truth of who we are as well. And I find that when we have that when we're naturally kind of looking for the authenticity and the truth in someone, when we have a session with them, I find that that's what we see, and that's what we tend to bring out in people, and that's where I believe we don't lose sight of, even if they have lost sight of their higher self, or they're really feeling a bit lost, we're not losing sight of it. We can still hold that. We can still see it when we're working with them. I think that's really important.
Totally. So I guess that's where it does come into play, that the more we know that's what it's really about, and we do that work on ourselves, the more we can hold that space for others. Because if we went in and we're like, well, is it really about that? Then they're not going to be able to get that result if they're really polarized. And you opened a really cool door there a minute ago, talking about returning to wholeness, because the mind is essentially a fragmented, I'm not going to say a piece of machinery, like it's a fragmented device. It's a fragmented thing where it stores subconsciously the opposite of certain memories. In only March last year, they discovered where in the mind we actually store suppressed memories, which are actually can also be called anti-memories. So it's a bit like if someone did have an addiction or a habit or just anything going on in life, and they said, right, that thing is all negative, we'll subconsciously store where it is also positive. So something I look at whenever someone has a problem is, okay, where is that not a problem? What is the actual positive intention, or the higher intention behind that thing? And they've actually found where that is in the brain now, which is really cool.
How awesome is that? Because I always say in every problem there is a solution ready to be unwrapped. We just have, we might not have seen it. It's like in a present, it's like we have to unwrap the present of the problem to see the solution. But every problem comes with the inbuilt solution already in it, so it's already whole. That's amazing that our brain mirrors that. I love that. That is so cool. And when, oh, wow, I want to know more about this. So when did they discover this?
Ooh, I couldn't give you the exact details, but if you look up March 2016, March 2016 anti-memory, there's a study there specifically. I think even just intuitively, once you go over and over it a number of times, you start to see that it is true. Like when we were in a relationship that ended really badly, and then a few years later, we're like, God, I missed that person, and I missed all that stuff, all that subconscious stuff where we remember that person was actually not so bad.
Yeah.
Or at the start, when we think someone is just amazing, like, oh, just totally in love and it's all perfect, honeymoon period. And then we go, oh, there's a few little things I don't quite like sometimes there as well. So there's always that balance there, but sometimes we just go a little bit blind to the other side.
Yeah. I'm really curious. I have my own kind of idea on why this might be, but I'm curious if you have any information about it actually. When you have an argument with someone and you're really crossing, both going at it or whatever you're doing, and then the next day you make up and then you can't even remember what the argument was about. That kind of sort of the memory, it's just not there. People can remember how they felt, and they can remember like why they were so adamant about something, they were convicted or something about something getting there, but they can't really remember what started or that kind of thing. Like, how did that start? Do you have any reality on that? Do you have a reality on what causes that memory loss?
Okay, so we're looking at not remembering the content behind a fight or why it started. I'd say it probably just lost importance. We're designed to remember things that are going to serve us in life and designed to forget things that either don't serve us or are potentially painful and that sort of thing. So I suggest it's probably just something that's no longer as important as making up. And maybe the subconscious mind decided, well, if I forget what that was about, maybe I can have a more loving relationship. So there could be a couple of possibilities. I couldn't say exactly for sure though.
It's interesting though, isn't it? And it's a bit of a phenomenon. I bet every single person watching this has experienced that phenomena that we just don't remember.
So the thing I do now, if someone angers me or upsets me or I'm in conflict with, I start to ask, how is that person actually serving my life? Are they somehow serving me in my health or my business, with my friendships or spiritually or in some way, just to ask me, how is that person serving me? Or how is this situation serving me? A cool example of that was I got robbed around probably 2 years ago, maybe around 18 months ago. So I thought, well, I'll start to examine how this actually serves me. So I added up what was stolen. It was only about $200 worth of stuff. But that day I made $900 in my business. So I'm like, well, have I really lost that much today? Not really. And then what I found when I was looking for a ring that was stolen was actually worth more to me than what was stolen. The ring I never used and just sat there, but what I found I used every day for 6 months. Just happened to be behind the dresser. So you kind of look, how is this actually serving me, and kind of take the judgment out of it. And what is actually going on there?
Love that. I can so relate to you. When I was over in Spain, it was in 2012 on a holiday with my family. We were robbed. Our car, we stopped over to have a look at Salvador Dali's home in Spain. He's an artist who did amazing artwork and is someone that my husband really looks up to when it comes to his work, his body of work, which is really amazing. Anyway, so we had all our gear in the back seat, and we were driving from, we picked up the hire car in Spain, and we were driving out into the country where, Salvador Dali's home was, and we parked our car and we were all excited, but all our gear was in the back, and they smashed the back window, and they took everything, pretty much everything, except for our big, huge luggage bags. They took all, we couldn't take our, people must know this, you can't actually take your bags into, the place unless you get a locker. We didn't get a locker, so it's must be a thing, when you go there. But the thing I got out of it was that I felt really that it was an experience for my whole family that was teaching us how we deal with feeling safe. And for me, I felt really safe. All our passports were taken, all our money was taken, all our credit cards were taken. We had nothing, yet I felt really safe and really taken care of. And that was my reality. And I was able to model that for my family, in my words, how we talked to the police, how we managed to get back on the road with the new car, from the rental company, everything, the whole bit, how we ended up in Paris a couple of days later with new passports. And it was just the most revelational, for me, time to go, that's how you deal with life, girls. My daughters were like 12 and 14, so they were really impressionable, and my husband and I were like this solid team. And we had some issues with my mum because she was along for the trip and had a different reality around that whole thing, and so that really gave us clarity on that relationship as to how we do life differently. And that was a gift as well. So I agree with you that one, we didn't see it as a loss, Jeremy. Like, we did not see that story or that situation at all as a loss.
Yeah, you're not grieving the loss of that stuff, are you? No.
Nope. I lost, you could say my iPad was taken, my phone, everything, you could say a whole heap of things. But the reality was we only gained from that trip. How to deal with crises, how to create solutions, how to stay really positive, and we had a beautiful trip. It was awesome. The rest of the trip for us was fantastic. So it's kind of funny, isn't it, that they're great ideas, great real life examples, or to help people to understand. Yeah, you can get robbed. Lots of bad shit can happen, or if you think it's bad shit, or it could just be that it's actually brilliant and it's brilliantly orchestrated to help to design you to live your life the way you feel you want to live and learn from, like you said.
So something I'm quite passionate about too is collapsing time around that. Some people just figure that out 10 or 20 years later, but what if that could be done in weeks, days, or just hours? To take that situation, and I like the idea of using a cloud example. So some people say, look for that silver lining in the cloud. Well, what if you actually look at the other side of the cloud and it's actually, there's a whole silver side there, but we're only just looking for that little bit? What if we saw it to be an equal amount? And again, that wholeness, those two sides, two polarities, the positive and negative coming together, and then really seeing that whole picture. So I like the idea of that. Take that situation, how did that serve me in all the areas of my life, until it's actually gratitude rather than loss, and that sort of thing too.
Oh, ditto. Absolutely. High 10 on that. Me too. I think that problems are an adventure to discover what the gifts are, and when we feel like that, problem is a negative thing, we create more blockages to actually the solutions. I find like our energy centers close down, and the actual ideas that could help drop in to actually create the solutions are blocked. And it's like, spirit can't get in, can't communicate with us. We're just not listening. We're not interested because we're too busy making up a story about why this is so negative and why this experience is such a negative experience. And I think that's probably why in my life, when people say, oh, how are you? You're so busy, or you've got this going on, and I just say, yeah, it's great. Like, people, I don't know, they mustn't, for them, they might think, oh, it's so busy, you have no time to relax. Like, no, I'm relaxing all the time. I'm relaxed right now as we're working. So, there's a different reality going on. It's not about your time's so full, or you don't have any, time to relax because you're so busy and there's so much going on. It's like, no, actually, I've got a lot of time to relax. And yeah, it's really awesome. So it's kind of, you know what I mean? Like, that's another example of how people could just project their story onto you. And that's not...
They're kind of holding on to the story. That's what's going on, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, and I think, as we were talking about wholeness before, when you said, and I mean, everything that we're talking about, I think it really relates to addiction recovery too, because when one of the things that I think it was the words, please don't I'm paraphrasing here, I'm not quoting you, but the thing that really impressed upon me when I was reading some of your work and hearing what you had to say about addictions was you were talking about how is this serving me from the addiction point of view, like talking about how it is actually serving a person and what its purpose is, like to teach them. Please expand on that for me with your words, because I know I'm paraphrasing back here and I really enjoy the way you say it.
Yes, I'll share that teaching. First of all, share a little bit about the addictions and different sort of habits and compulsions I had. So I'd probably tried around 19 different types of legal and illegal drugs and medications and these sort of things. But the purpose, there was always a purpose behind them. It was either to feel high, to get connected, to bliss out, to have fun with people, to enjoy sensory experiences and all these sorts of things. And I noticed that everything I was looking for from those things, I actually get from a healthy source in my life now. And there's 4 things I noticed in almost all addiction recovery and just in people who seem to be doing, you could say really well in life. And those things are things like exercise. So specifically things like, say, yoga, Tai Chi and Qigong and those sort of things. But certainly also things like running, swimming, dancing and that sort of thing. There's almost always an exercise component, so something to physically move and physically engage the body. Almost all people do get into some kind of spiritual work or religious work, or look for something that is some kind of higher purpose for them. There's not just that sense of recovering and then, I'm just going to sit at home and not do anything. There's always some reason or purpose behind moving forward there as well. And then the other thing I noticed was there's typically a service to others as well. Like how often do you hear about someone who had made a full recovery from something and that becomes their life work to actually help someone to go and do that. So yeah, around exercise, spirituality, service to others and having some sort of purpose. So I guess we all do look for something different in any type of addiction or compulsion that we have. And for some people that can be an escape. For some it could be a pleasure to get connected, to have a release or some sort of belonging. It could be any of those things and more. So really a first step I would recommend for anyone is to start to ask, what do I like about this addiction or what do I get from it? Start to make a bit of a list and actually look at what am I actually looking for here? I think it's really important to take away the judgment around the behaviour. Otherwise we feel guilty, go back to it, and it is that cycle that does seem to go on and on. I think, what am I actually doing here? And then it becomes, if I'm looking for belonging, connection, or an escape or something like that, isn't that an act of self-love? And if we can see that behaviour as an act of self-love, that becomes a huge reframe, and it's also the truth as well, because we wouldn't do anything if we weren't getting something from it. So there's a few ideas kind of all rolled into one there. But I think, taking away the judgment and the guilt and that sort of thing and just looking at it genuinely, what do I get from it? What do I like about it? And then how can I get that from a healthy source in the future as well?
Yeah, it's kind of like I'm getting this image of, often we hate our addictions. We just want them to go away because we're like, I hate smoking. I don't want to do it anymore. Why do I want to keep smoking? Or we get to a point where we're frustrated. We hate it. We don't, it's like we're beating up on our addiction, like there's a bit of internal DV going on. And I think while that internal DV is going on, that kind of level of internal violence is not actually helping us to give up, because it's creating an angst within our being that is actually creating an even bigger need to want to medicate uncomfortable feelings or that sort of disconnection that we're feeling. And I'm getting this image of what you're talking about as being more like saying, hey buddy, okay, let's find out more about you. Just come on, sit on down and tell me all about it. Like what do you need? Why are you wanting this? And what's going on for you? And what are you getting out of it? And how are you really feeling? And how else can we look at functional ways to meet those needs? And it just makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah,
like
even logically, it totally makes sense. Yeah.
So logical. I mean, and it is like, I know a lot of what we do on Enlightened Conversations is we talk about unity consciousness. And it's like, yeah, okay. you could say, like, oh, you know, we're all connected and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Okay, we are. But my feeling is that the unity consciousness starts within ourselves as well. And so that we learn to how our negating different components of our psyche actually creates the gaps and the voids that we, and the disconnects that we feel we need to medicate as well. So the more we actually bring those in and feel whole and feel that unification within ourselves, the more we can then feel actually comfortable with other people and those parts of their personality as well that we may not have reclaimed ourselves. Do you kind of work with that kind of thing as well, realizing that for people?
Yeah, totally, yes. And just as you were talking there, I thought about, what if all negative thoughts, negative emotions and addictions were hanging around to bring about unity? And what if you actually included negative thoughts, negative emotions and addictions as a part of the conversation within yourself? To go, hey, negative thought, or hey, grief, hey, addiction, what are you trying to teach me right now? And to find that higher reasoning behind it. And I wonder if it hangs around only until we find a higher purpose. Is that the whole point behind it? I think it's a big part of it.
I agree. And my big thing is that I always say to people, especially if they have stuff that they're doing in their lives that they're kind of labeling good, bad, you know, dark, light, right, wrong, that kind of stuff. I like to say, well, I actually believe that the darkness or those lower vibrational frequencies or however you want, negative thoughts, whatever, yada, 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 they're all serving a higher purpose. So they have a job to do, like they do. I mean, to get our attention. I mean, absolutely, they have a job to do. So if that's their job, then if we can thank them for it and be grateful and short circuit our way kind of to gratitude, I think we bring out the best in them, and then they become these like amazing components and allies. It's like, oh, thank God they got the message. Now I can get on with being creative. I'm going to be this creative force in their lives that they won't even know where all this creative energy came from, because I'm so freaking amazing at now that my energy's unblocked, I can actually work for them rather than against them. How awesome is that? And I think that's when we start to be able to do so much more than we ever imagined, because we don't even know where it comes from, but it's all unlocking. Like we're unlocking and activating these parts that have been like suppressed. That's what I think happens.
Yeah, it's like a communication channel. If the communication channel is blocked, they're going to get louder, they're going to start screaming. And then thoughts and emotions say, well, okay, we need to team up with pain. Let's create some pain inside the body, in the shoulders, the knees, the ankles, reflux, a migraine, and you could go on and on with the body symptoms. And then, okay, then it goes, right, well, let's create an addiction or create something that's continual, so the body will wake up, or the body and mind will wake up to what's going on, and this consciousness can actually come alive. And then eventually it keeps progressing, saying, well, this person needs to return to wholeness, a true perspective, and needs to return to a loving way of being as well.
Yeah.
Anytime that's blocked, I think the thoughts get louder, the emotions get louder. They team up with pain and dysfunction. I want to catch those things nice and early. I certainly still have plenty of negative thoughts, just about every negative emotion from time to time. But I work hard to not work hard, but I work to not resist it. I might let it go for a day at most and go, okay, yeah, I don't want to feel that tomorrow. What are you trying to teach me? Be with the emotion. And that way it doesn't need to get too loud, and team up with those other dysfunctions and pain and addictions.
Yeah, I feel like there's no negative emotions. It's just that sort of when they feel uncomfortable, and it's because of usually that we still haven't got to the bottom of it yet. And it's getting louder, and it's getting louder. I always like to say, like, when I'm big on balance. And I think that when things are out of balance, it's another sign to have a little bit of a deeper look at what needs to shift so that the balance comes back. And I feel like sort of, when we're as the more we kind of go on our journeys ourselves, and we might think got an imbalance with the positive negative ratio going on in our head or whatever. I think those times get shorter the more we the more we have that intention, I think, to get to the underlying gift of a situation or a lesson, the blessing in the lesson, so to speak. And I think that then, and this is what I've experienced, is that I don't usually have a lot of negative, if you like, thoughts running for like, if I do, I kind of, I don't know, I don't get stuck on them. It's sort of like things shift really quickly, like they're just like naturally, like without investigation, they're just naturally shifting over, because something, I can't explain that, Jeremy, but I feel like I want to explain it because I've never had to explain it before. But it feels like, it's almost like, it's like, hitting kind of like critical mass or something, and where you've just done it, like, you've been at the gym and you've worked out a million times, and it was really hard in the beginning, and then you get to a point and you do a class and you're not sore, and you pushed yourself as hard as you could, but you're not sore, and it's like you've gotten to a point where you just don't feel, you're healthy, but you just don't feel the pain or it's not hard or something. And I think that's kind of what's kicked in. I think, that's really good for people to know that, because it certainly has for me. I don't have, that sort of stuff. And if I do have something pop up, it's awesome. It's like, yay, something. Okay, I've got something, and it's kind of cool. And I get to, it's like I'm a bit like a happy puppy dog. I go, I get to explore something, because there's not a lot sort of running there. It's just on that trajectory, which I think is really awesome. I really love being in that. It's a very creative space when one is in the positive framework. It's very creative, because there's not, like, the flow energetically is coming all the way through, and there's always, like, I believe we are guided to take action, like in our daily lives, not to live in our heads. And so there's a lot of creativity, and there's a lot of action, and there's a lot of a lot of fun stuff going on. So it's quite exciting, actually.
Yeah, I liked what you said around just being curious when an emotion comes up, or thinking, that's interesting, let's explore that, rather than it ever being a battle or an everyday thing. Oh, hi, anxiety. Haven't seen you for a couple of months. What's going on? How have you been? And I say, well, this is going on in your life. Oh, yeah, thanks for reminding me about that. I had been going to work, and battling with computer work is a pretty common one in my environment. People I know just battling away with websites or battling away with technology and these sort of things. Oh, you're reminding me I need to go and put my feet in the sand. Thank you, anxiety. My God, where have you been?
Yeah,
So I think it just comes in. That's like a nice little simple reminder. If we've been battling away with the computer and we're just not feeling grounded, the anxiety comes in to say, hey, Jeremy, get outside, go and get grounded. And that's kind of the purpose behind it.
Yeah.
There's something I have a look at too, is that every emotion is a lie. Now, I'd take love, gratitude, inspiration, enthusiasm, and maybe a couple of others out of that. But if I have anger, it's never the whole truth. So I'd look at, I'm angry at someone because I'm not seeing where I've done the same, so seeing the reflection, and seeing how it actually benefits me as well.
Mm-hmm.
Also too, if I am, and this is the one a lot of people will have trouble with, if I'm happy, I'm also not seeing how that thing or that person is not serving my life. So if I'm really happy going out on a date, perhaps, maybe that person was having a negative impact on my health because I drank some alcohol, stayed up really late. If I went out dancing, maybe I had really sore feet the next day. So there was happiness there, but there was also the other side. I think it's important too, with the joyful things and the painful things, to see the opposite side there.
Yeah. Because I worked a lot with, in my counselling practice when I had that, I worked a lot with multi-addictions, and one of the clientele that I got a lot of, no surprises because I'd been through it myself, was a lot of clients who had been in relationships where they were actually dependent on and love addicted to the person, in a dependent way. And, and often that can feel really good, you know, that can feel awesome.
They're feeling really good. They're amazing. They treat me so well. I'm really, really, really in love with them. I think when you get the really, really, reallys, it's an overcompensation for the part they're denying. And then, like you mentioned, the balance is important. And it's probably important to love people for how they really are, not for the fantasy, because the fantasy will always be cracked by the truth.
Yes. And I guess a good little barometer, I would say, would be, you know, in that situation, because there's always a honeymoon period of a relationship in that style of relationship, you know, where the person actually sees the best in you and you see the best in them, and blah, blah, blah. So what I would say to the person is, does that person see the best in you? And they're like, oh yes, absolutely, you know, they love me and they're just doing all these things, and, you know, yeah. And I'd say, okay, well, and so what are you doing with all that energy and for yourself? Like, how is that anchoring you into your purpose? How is that anchoring you into your life? How is that helping your light to shine? And how are you doing that in your world? What form is that taking? Otherwise, it can be like this oceanic experience that just covers up their purpose, what they're here for, and it can be a medicator, and they don't realize that. And I've known people who can be in those relationships for very long periods of time, and then something happens, and it may well be the person cheats on them or whatever it is, and then they're completely lost. Like, they don't know who they are. Or you know, the other person that they're with stops to worship the ground they're walking on and give them everything they want, and they start to become grumbly and in pain and feel that abandoned pain and, you know, that kind of stuff, and they don't know what to do. And so I would say that the antidote to, yeah, like you're saying, have a really good look, and have a really good explore of those really positive feelings that you're feeling. And if they're true, it will reconnect you back to your purpose. It will reconnect you to why you're here, what you're here for. And it will help you know more of who you are, not less of who you are. Because someone says that, you know, it's like, well, yeah, but where am I? Do I feel that connection as well, you know?
Totally, yes. You're one of my best friends, who I'm also in business with as well, and we've got an online program together, have a lot of fun, play games. His parents have a lake, so we're down there swimming, and yeah, there's always like nice food and mangoes and vegan sausage rolls everywhere, and it's just like, it's always always having good times there. But there's also the opposite side. Being a personal trainer, he often causes me pain, makes me work out, can be stubborn like myself. And just to see, yeah, cool, there's the two sides there. There's the times where there's joy together, but also the opposite side. If we were liking someone because they were really, really beautiful, that might attract attention that we didn't want them to get sometimes. Or they might take longer to get ready and some of these sort of things. Or if there was someone who was really intelligent, we might think, oh, they can be annoying sometimes because they know it all, or there's nothing new to discover. So just to look at that opposite side, and yeah, I think we can love people for who they really are if we can see both sides, and not just the pretend side that can tend to cause some of that dependency.
Yeah, that's really good. I really like that. Yeah, it's it helps you to become really conscious of why you're connecting with somebody and what you're getting from it, and how they're serving you, and how their relationship is serving you, to be more conscious of who you are and connected to who you are as well. I think that's awesome, because I think that relationships, like, I think that they help us to expand, you know. So you know, like, you might have a relationship with someone and it might look like a really crap relationship, but if you actually have a really good look at it, you know, in the past, and you've moved on from it, but just if you look at how it served you, it could have really helped you to expand into more of who you are by, yeah, like we were saying before, like, not providing the thing that you know, the good feelings or whatever that you want, and it's like, you go, oh, that's what I want to create, and so it can expand you to take responsibility to do that. And also, I think, yeah, the good ones can help us expand too, like, not good, bad, right, wrong, but the ones that we feel we're in, like I feel I'm currently in, where I just feel like we're always like, yeah, like, it's almost like you can see, this is probably the best way to say it, you can see what a person's capable of and their infinite potential, and you're excited when they hit it. You know, when they hit it, you sort of like, you know, the Ghostbusters, ding, 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 bell. We got one. You're like, you've really, you know, you're able to really celebrate it with them, and you know, the reality of who they are becomes more real and tangible, and you get excited about it. I think that's an awesome part of being in relationships that are healthy too.
Yeah, it sounds like you're talking about relationships that lead to evolution and actually serve a purpose rather than just, say, the romantic love on its own.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally.
I had actually realised just a few weeks ago that I'd been trying to recreate romantic love I'd had 7 years ago for the last 7 years. I was still trying to recreate that feeling rather than, say, having relationships with a purpose or building partnerships, and even just having girls that were friends, because I was always just thinking, oh, quick opportunity, take action, try and recreate this feeling, try and recreate this type of relationship. This is something I've only just done really recently, and it's the thing I look at again with all my habits and with relationships and with everything I do at work now. I just look at, well, what's the purpose behind it? Is it increasing my health, my awareness, my relationships, my finances? Is it increasing those things in my life, or is it decreasing? Just adding more of those things that do serve that higher purpose.
Yeah, that's great. I like that. And when you really allow yourself to feel into that, you get a really good reality check on the relationships, don't you?
It's hard.
Can be joyful though, because you know, I know that if you're looking for that, and you're going to create that. So, you know, someone like myself, you know, if I know I'm meeting all my needs and I'm really happy with me, and I'm in that space of completion and completeness and joy, and then someone comes along and they are too, and they're not looking for me to fill their needs, or that, you know, I mean, even in work relationships, I get this too. I get the vibes when I'm working with people, because you can have the same kind of dynamics set up in work relationships where, you know, someone's kind of coming in and they're expecting something from you rather than they're bringing their whole complete self to the table. Like this works everywhere. You can actually feel it energetically. It's like, yeah, I get excited and I want to work and collaborate with people who bring all themselves to the table, because it's like, yeah, because they're not like, oh, you know, someone's going to take from me, and you know, like they're just, they're not even in, that's not even in their radar. They're just going, no one can take anything from me, sweetheart, because I give me everything. You know, it's just such a different energy. And I think it's the key to, you know, what you say yes to in relationship, in romantic relationship, and I think it's the key to what you say yes to in business as well, because you always want to work with people that bring more to the table because of who they are, not expecting, what can I get from this, and, you know, and what are they expecting, and all that. It's just all toxic crap, I think, a story that we've created for ourselves. They can't give you anything, actually. They're just them, you're just you, but together, guess what? You can make magic, because spirit, I believe, brings out the best in us when we believe that we're enough, and when we believe the other person's enough too, and then we can see where that actually, it's like a flower can grow out of that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So I'm curious about you and your adventures to South Africa. Where are you going? How long are you going for? What are you doing?
I was slightly worried you'd ask me that, because I don't know the names of the countries I'm going to, which is kind of how I travel. When I went to Egypt 3 years ago, I didn't bother looking at any of the pictures, anywhere we were going, did no research. That was all just kind of a fresh experience. But I've looked at a couple of little maps and pictures this time. I think it's Namibia, well, certainly South Africa, Namibia, the one next to it to the left, and possibly Zimbabwe. Yeah, definitely Zimbabwe, Namibia, the one to the left of Namibia, and South Africa. So I'm going with Adrian Hanks, who's a friend of mine, and also is one of the other coaches on Super Dads Online that I've got with Jared Lestrange. So I've known him for about 7 years, and actually met him at the very first personal development seminar I ever did in Brisbane, which is kind of a really interesting thing. Yeah, traveling over there, going to places where there's not just, dozens or hundreds of elephants, but I think there's thousands. And there was one situation where a lady looked out of her the glass door, looking out at night, and there's a hyena just staring back at her. So definitely right out into the wild.
So is that sort of a adventure holiday for communing with nature? Is that the intention, like the whole experience of being in that kind of African and jungle and all that stuff?
Yeah, it is a spiritual and connection type tour. Still a little little rituals and things we do along the way. But yeah, also I just love the idea of being out in the wilderness, out under the stars at night, just put me there, yeah.
I'm jelly. I want to go to South Africa.
But I've got plenty of work to do in the next 6 months to get there.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, it sounds like fun. I'm going to the States in June, so I'm looking forward to that adventure. I'm going to see the Grand Canyon and Niagara Falls and meet a whole heap of people that I've not met before, that I have met before, virtually. So it's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to that too. It's funny when I ask you, why are you going? And I guess because, I see travel as so many layers of different things, Jeremy. Like, there's the whole, nature thing. Of course, obviously you're going to be around animals, amazing. Grand Canyon, Niagara Falls, like, wow. But then there's that whole sort of like, creating a space for whatever wants to present itself, because we're not perhaps, like, we don't have our schedule full and whatnot with work and things like that, and just kind of creating that sort of invitation, a bit like this conversation where you're just, creating an hour to say, well, what wants to come through. And I think that's pretty awesome when we can do that, like just create the space for that and see travel as an opportunity to do that as well.
Yeah, I'm definitely a highly planned person. I thought about just a couple of nights ago, when was the last time I was truly out of control? And there's some times when I'm a little bit out of control, but yeah, when was I don't mean in kind of a crazy way, but when was I just cut loose and not this, structured person?
Nice. Good questions, Jeremy. I like it.
I think that's something I'm, seeking more of. Get out of the little box. Well, not the little box, but get out of that box that's appeared somewhat in the last few months as well.
Awesome. I can relate to that. I think, that's that balance thing again, and that's cool. And it's like the structure. I love structure, by the way. I'm a Taurian. I'm a planner. I'm a freaking spreadsheet person. Like, give me a spreadsheet and I'll create a spreadsheet on a spreadsheet, because I'm a spreadsheet person.
We'll get along. We're both earth signs. I'm a Capricorn.
So yeah, I'm a Taurus. Like, I'm just like, let's get organized, blah, blah. But then it's like, I actually have had to plan time that is just blobby time, no particular thing time. And I think that for me is really awesome, because then that allows me to just breathe, creates that space to invite whatever needs to happen, and then what you just said before, which was that sort of get out the box, get out of the schedule, and just let whatever's going to happen. I love that.
I know I'll definitely get that in Africa. I'll have very little control over who does anything and what happens. Yeah.
So is Adrian Hanks is that the guy that you're going with, Adrian Hanks, as well?
That's right. Yeah, he's organising and running the whole tour. Yeah.
I think I met him. I think if it's the same Adrian Hanks was at. Did he used to be on Soul TV at all? Do you know?
Probably. He's in a lot of those circles.
Okay.
So he's the guy he has the Blue Wren Foundation now, helping men prevent being a domestic violence type person, and just in having more conscious relationships, conscious parenting,
Yeah.
Yeah, super cool guy. Really, really holds that masculine energy.
Does he wear hats?
Yeah, he wears the hat so people will remember him, coincidentally.
Oh my God, that is so cool. Because, yeah, I'm much more of a face person than a name person. So I'm sure I'll get better at the name thing, but I'm just that person. I can see the face, but the name. Yeah, so cool. Oh, that's great that you're going with him. I think that's awesome. He's lovely. I met him at Conscious Life Festival in 2015. And I know I was on Soul TV and he used to be on Soul TV, but we weren't on Soul TV at the same time. So we kind of knew of each other, and then we had our stalls kind of not next to each other, but just kind of across the way. Yeah, it was really lovely to connect and meet him. And he's got a great energy about him, and it's great to hear the work that he's doing around the DV for men too. I think that's really important. I've had a lot of guests on that are really passionate about the DV and helping support women and things like that. But I just love to hear that there's work for men too, because this is it's a universal issue. So it's great to have those services and support as well, so that men are assisted as well. Like, it's everywhere. So why shouldn't we have those things?
And I think we could take that formula we were using before around what is the positive intention, say, for the man in what he's actually trying to achieve, if being physically or emotionally violent. What is it actually looking to get? Is it to be heard, to be understood, to control spending, or to get healthy, or whatever it is? And even from the woman's point of view, is anytime we're criticised, bullied or attacked, is someone trying to get us to step up in some part of our life? Is someone trying to re-empower us in some way? Not saying that it's ever a legitimate thing for a guy or anyone to do a violent thing, but is that the energy behind it? Is it to try and get us to step up, to re-energise or to re-empower ourselves and to grow in some way, really?
Yeah, I like that, because, my view on, like, anybody who's in a situation, whether in a DV situation, is that they need to have that experience of the person abusing them, so that they learn how they can stop abusing themselves. The person in the relationship is simply a mirror of a projection of a disowned part of the person's self that they're not actually taking responsibility for. So then when they actually have a conversation internally with the part of themselves that has actually been abusing them or abandoning them or neglecting them in any way, shape or form, and they start to actually own that and start to recognise that within themselves and start to heal that, then they don't have a need for a DV relationship or attract a partner like that. Or are they attracted to a relationship?
Yes.
So the mechanics internally completely shift the external reality. And so I'm very passionate about that. It's like, it's so easy to blame the person who might be the DV offender. The reality is, if we've created all our experiences, then surely we need to face that which we need to reclaim and transform ourselves, so that we can then have those relationships that we actually want, We want really good relationships, like you're saying, it's like that want to build us up, and we want to have those. And so let's doing that. Like, let's really start doing that work for ourselves, so that we can create that.
So we can't transcend ourselves until we get over ourselves.
Yeah.
Or get past the self that we're denying.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's for me, that's a big one, because I'm not big on victim stuff. Like, I just don't think any of us are a victim, even if we've been abused. We're still not victims. We're still able to say, why did I need to have that experience, so that I could learn to do something now, to empower myself in the here and now, in the present moment. That's all that exists. Let's do this. Not sit in blame of what just happened or what I'm creating for myself either, but just say, well, what am I doing about it? What do I need to strengthen within me, so that I don't need this experience anymore? And often what I find is, when you're working with on that level, it's a funny things happen. It's like the person that might be abusing you actually starts to shift and change, and starts to crack open and have transformation and go, what the hell am I doing? Because the person that they're with doesn't have a need for them to be doing that anymore. So then they start to change, and then we have this big sort of relationship resurrection, if you like, where no one needs to do that to each other anymore, and they don't even want to think about doing that to each other anymore, because that's just superfluous, and they want to do something way different. And so there's massive transformation available when we work like that, I believe.
I always wondered when I'd first examined all this work, this was probably like 10 years ago, and I thought, how come, say, the doormat type person or the people pleaser isn't being swarmed with love and affection and respect, yet the assertive one, and who is or aggressive or even sometimes aggressive, who is overly direct and just doesn't take anything except what they want, seems to get respect even when they're taking from people. Now, we could use some politicians as some good examples of that. People keep giving them attention, keep giving them respect. But the people, say if someone was to keep giving me everything, I tend to think, well, maybe they're not being authentic. And maybe that's, again, what the messenger, like their emotions or the bully, is trying to wake them up to. And if we could see perhaps, even the bully, the thoughts, the emotions, the addictions as a messenger just to wake us up to some part of life, I think that could be a great way to expand seeing things as a reflection as well.
I love that. Jeremy, that
is that a reflection? Is that a reflection? How can I use that to re-empower myself?
Beautiful. Beautiful words, my friend. Beautiful words. So we at the end, I can't believe the hours gone by so quickly. Please let people know what's coming up quickly, where they can find you and that kind of stuff, your website or your social media, whatever you prefer. It's totally your call.
Yeah. So people can reach me at inspirehypnotherapy.com. And if you're a dad, or if you know of a dad who wants to be a better dad or a super dad, on Super Families Online, might be .com.au. That's where you'll find a program run by myself, Jared Lestrange, Adrian Hanks, and our financial coach, Wendy Lane. And that's where we help dads with relationships and with health, with conscious parenting. I help with the addiction, habits and stress side of things. And we give dads this all-round place where they can just, get their superpowers and get to be that super dad. So if you are a dad or know of one, certainly send them along to that. We've got a free online community, as well as there's obviously the paid program as well. We're on to help as many people as possible. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really have gotten a lot out of our conversation today. I really appreciate you sharing all your wisdom and techniques and things that you know that really have helped you, and sharing your soul, bearing your soul to us, because it's great. We all learn from each other, and and it's good to keep it real. I'm big on that. So I'm really glad that you're able to do that, Jeremy. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you as well. Thanks for opening up this space.